North Vietnam cannot defeat or humiliate the United States. Only Americans can do that.
Hello and welcome to Revisited. 3 million killed in a conflict that lasted 30 years, Vietnam. The first Indochina War, fought between the French and those who wanted independence, then became the full Vietnam War, led by the US to try to put a stop to the red menace of communism in Asia. But the American people became tired of the fighting, in which over 2.5 million of its young people had become embroiled. By the end, 58,000 of them killed. Napalm bombings and ferocious US attacks didn't stop the conflict from becoming totally bogged down in the jungle and the Vietnamese rice fields. Amid the quagmire, Washington suffered its first ever military defeat, the Paris Peace Accords in 1973 finally leading to the US pulling out. Forward wind now to Wednesday, April the 30th, 1975. Saigon, the capital of South Vietnam, always supported by the US, was surrounded by troops from the north. The city fell into an indescribable panic, punctuated by the endless stream of helicopters. They evacuated the staff out of the US embassy, then tried to take out as many civilians as they could who were terrified by the arrival of communist soldiers. At 11:30 exactly, tanks rolled into the gardens of the presidential palace.
When I arrived at the palace, I went to the second floor, where the puppet government was.
Saigon did not only lose its status as a capital in favour of Hanoi, but also its identity. It was immediately renamed Ho Chi Minh City in honour of the founder of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. The former capital of French Indochina, once nicknamed the Paris of the Far East, has lost much of its charm, but it became the main industrial centre of the emerging economy. As Cyril Pine has discovered for France 24, it is a hyperactive city of 7 million people, many of whom continue to affectionately call their home Saigon.
This is Tran Van T and his young wife, Hai. Both are still in their 30s. They left their rural homes a few years ago to settle in Saigon and are part of this growing group in Vietnam of vibrant young urbanites.
Tại vì em đứng ở ngoài mà. Chừng nào chứ lên? Hả? Chừng nào chứ lên đây?
But my wife, she cannot make the food. I teach her a lot of time, but...
Is it the new Vietnamese style?
Maybe in the future. The men have to do anything, not like before. The times are really difficult. The life is like you have to work hard, but you get like not much, and you have to take care for a lot of people. So one people work, you have to take care for whole family. Work hard, but money not much, and you don't have time for the family too.
And do you think this time is over?
Yeah, I think that's over already.
It's time for school for the newlywed Hai. But there's only really one kind of school that young people here are interested in, one that teaches English.
Having English as a second language is vital in the modern world. It's a priority for me. It's thanks to speaking English that I can engage with society and find work.
Hai studies an hour a day at this state-of-the-art international school. The price of a course here is equal to several years' salary for most Vietnamese, but the place is never empty. Every week, more and more students are signing up for classes. It's all about the future, a future in English, both of which remain uncertain and stuttering.
Today I study lesson 10.2.
But Vietnamese is not enough?
Not enough to open my knowledge. Yeah.
the English language. Walk had to learn it in secret in 1981 when it was still the language of the American enemy. Today, he's one of the school directors. Born just a few months after the end of the war, he arrived on the losing side. His family had supported the defeated Americans.
It is still in my mind that I and my father and other three younger sisters together, we were on the boat to try to escape from Vietnam. And at that time, we failed. So that's why I am here.
Boat people. The Nguyen family have been boat people 10 times. 10 attempts to flee by sea in nearly a decade, and 10 failures. Each time they were arrested and the father sent to prison. Each time he was released, they tried again. For a pro-American soldier, the fall of Saigon was like the end of the world.
Dad, do you remember what you did on April 30th, 1975?
Of course I remember. The communists came and I told myself, that's it. The Americans have let us down. It was chaos. Nothing was organized for us. The Americans had nothing planned for us. We wanted to fly out in a helicopter, but they left the country without us.
So what did you do then?
We just ran to the port. I told myself, let's get in a boat, let's escape by sea. It was total anarchy. There were thousands of us, all with the same idea. There were no boats. You know the rest.
The grandparents and great-grandparents of the Nguyen family had to leave North Vietnam in 1954 after siding with the French. Like hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese, they migrated to Saigon and another military defeat 20 years later. Despite the hardships and losses, the Nguyen family is now symbolic in many ways of the modern, united Vietnam. Walk's wife is the daughter of a VIETCONG hero of the War of National Liberation. Their marriage has joined the legacies of the communist North with the pro-Western South. Yesterday's enemies are today's fathers-in-law. We are in the middle-class district of Binh Thanh in Saigon. Like many of the northern cadres, Walk's stepfather was sent by the party to the conquered city of Saigon to work for the reunification of Vietnam.
Wow, I haven't kept anything. I don't have any photographs.
It is so long ago.
That's why it's good to still have them.
I started the campaign of Saigon in '67. I fought from '67 to the end of '75.
8 years of fighting, from the jungle to the city.
And you?
I joined the war in '68, but I didn't want to fight. I was a student, but it was mandatory. We were conscripts. I didn't want to be a soldier at all, but I didn't have a choice.
We are Vietnamese people, whether we are from the north or from the south or from the central. In my own opinion, I mean that we live in a peaceful land, in one country, in one government.
Then it comes to one of the biggest taboos in Vietnam.
What were you doing in the army?
I was a unit commander on the front line.
Wow, you did everything, strategy and fighting, impressive. I don't have any regrets. I did what we all had to do. It was war, you could die at any moment. Life was a lottery.
My experience was very different from yours. Me, I have regrets. I really regret my fallen comrades on the battlefield. It hurts when I think of them. Not a day goes by that I don't think about the sacrifices they made, all those I had to bury. Families I had to go to one by one after the independence, to tell them of their husbands' or sons' deaths. It's hard, you know. The difference between us is that me, I fought for freedom. I chose my destiny. As comrades, we shared a common purpose. All my fallen comrades are heroes. They will be in my heart forever.
Yes, it's growing very fast. It's good, but a little bit messy. There isn't really a comprehensive plan, though. It's a shame.
Wong Son left Vietnam in 1963. He followed the war from France, known then as the metropole of the French Empire. He belonged to one of Vietnam's great families, but his parents had to flee the country after the fall of Saigon.
It's the past. It was October 26, 1976 when they arrived. They left at 8 o'clock in the morning of October 21st, 1976.
5 jours de mer.
5 days at sea. The only question at the time was how it happened so fast. People didn't have the chance to prepare. The negotiations should have been a little different. Like back in 1954. There was a break. People were able to prepare. But not that time.
1954 was the year the French left Vietnam. The country was partitioned and the Civil War began, with a largely pro-Western, anti-communist South embodied by Saigon until the end.
La Rue Catina, it's always been the street... Are the people going to stop or not? So we can go.
If Ong Son doesn't finish his sentences, it may be because he's a little lost in today's Saigon. In days gone by, La Rue Catina, the Hotel Continental, was the pride of French Indochina.
It looks like we're on the Ginza or the Champs-Élysées, but there's one difference. So what are you selling?
I'm selling drinks, but I don't have permission.
She says she's selling from the pavement illegally. So I told her, yes, but you can do it. You're next to Versace, so there's no problem.
Ong Son was among the first returnees to united Vietnam in the early 90s. The country then was still very closed, but he rediscovered his homeland and has stayed ever since.
There's a tradition here, and maybe it should be revived. La Rue Catina was renamed Dong Khoi Street. But this street is now regaining some of its former glory. For years, we wanted to try and erase this memory of the capitalism of La Rue Catina. But you can't force a leopard to change its spots.
Indeed, Saigon, the former pearl of the Far East, is rejuvenating. The population has doubled since the end of the war. 70% of Vietnamese are under 35 years old, just like Tran Van Thi. None have had to suffer through the country's long war years. Saigon's youth have their lives ahead of them. They've turned a page. As for the book on Vietnam's contemporary history, they have no time for it. No care to think about it, no care to talk about it.
I've forgotten everything.
What's past is past. So we should think about the future. Don't think about the past anymore. We live for the future.
The war of liberation has been followed here by the death of an ideology. The tears only dry when you forget the dead. Nearly 40 years after the communist victory, Saigon, more than any other city in Vietnam, seems far from the official doctrine. Even renaming it Ho Chi Minh City after Vietnam's national hero doesn't mean much. From one world to another without transition, this is Saigon. At Tran Van Thi's restaurant tonight, a gathering of old Saigon friends.
When they come here, we want to make them feel like in the Dam family, like when you come home, something like that.
Among them, Ong Son, a child of Vietnam who became French, and MARC, one of the first French expatriates to settle in the new Vietnam.
My generation was too young to mobilize against the Algeria War. But we were very aware of the Vietnam War. I think one of the first political demonstrations I went to was a rally against the Vietnam War.
Every family was affected by the Vietnam War. Really, everyone. You think it wasn't painful for the northerners who experienced the war? Was it not painful for the people of the south too? And for those who fled, was it not also painful for them? And for those who were unable to leave, it was painful too. The history of Vietnam is painful. Each of us has a part of pain in him or herself, but I hope that over time, that pain will slowly be erased. The only thing is that we should not share this pain with the youth. Young people must be given the joy of life, the desire to build, and most importantly, the desire to learn and integrate in the world.
Indeed, the Civil War has devastated Vietnam for nearly 2 decades. But the heart of Saigon never really stopped beating, and the city has already begun a new life.
The people of Saigon rediscovering their identity. Well, that's this week's Revisited. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned, of course, for more editions coming up.